Springtime. Kashiwag. There's sorry, there's two versions. The EESEEGWAK, which is we're in the now, we're in the springtime, um, and the importance of recognizing what that means for us uh, as a whole, collectively, and how we can learn from how we experience this time of year in preparation for the coming months. How we would, in turn, be mindful in working with nature, working with the seasons, being in the season, and being a part of that natural world, and how our relationships uh, are reliant on that, and how we interconnect, and how we continually to be grateful for all of the gifts that come through the natural world, which many of those gifts provide life sustainability for us as people, and recognizing that we would always have to rely on that, and pay homage to that, the natural world in which we survive from, um, which basically tells me that uh, things change all the time. However, nature and the natural world itself, the fundamental aspects of nature pretty much are constant. And for example, we will always go through a springtime each year. We'll always go through a summertime, a fall, and winter. Those are constant. And it's not like we are in charge, or we are making this happen. We are not in charge of very much, actually. And in nature, in the natural world, we as people have always recognized our importance of being linked into it, as opposed to trying to dominate it. And this is our philosophy and our teaching about how the elders described that, how the elders spoke about that in terms of the relationships that we have. And relationships meaning not only personal human relations, but also relationship in the natural world, our connectedness to that. And so it's important to look at how we prepare ourselves. For instance, you look in the natural world, the animals are being born, like the birds, the ducks, and are starting to prepare for their nesting sites, things like that. The buffalo is shedding its fur from the winter, the moose, the horses, everything is changing to prepare themselves for the summer. And it's those kinds of little things that we learn from. How do we connect with that, and what does it mean to us? And so from the elders, they've always looked at um, those types of things as a guide, and even being able to read the weather, the weather and the wind, the way it changes as each season comes and goes. So those are all important things to us that we must try to understand that part of our history and part of who we are. Um, so we prepare ourselves always for what's the worst that could happen. And being in the sickness right now with this COVID, you know, makes me think about these things more and more. And what if things don't get better? And what if there is more sickness coming? Those are the things that are real to me to think about. And how do we survive in that? How do we prepare ourselves? How do we recognize how to respect the animal world? You know, we as a people have always relied on the moose, for example, to sustain us. The deer, the elk, um, the smaller animals, even the muskrat, and you know the beaver, the different animals that are out there that our people lived with and were a part of, and it was all about sustainability in the natural world. I'd like to just to talk a little bit about just to remind people about that time of preparation in our language, Waweestamun, which is a week, or you know, preparing yourself about you know your future. Why don't you share a little bit about uh, identity in terms of our identity as a Nehio, and identity in terms of spirit and spirituality, how we are uh, taught and how we are connected. And part of that speaks about the four elements in us as a human being, which is mind, body, spirit, and emotions. And so when we reflect that, we also see that in our ceremonies. We see the four directions, cardinal directions: east, which is springtime, east being the beginning for the new year in terms of coming into uh, doing the you know all of the summer uh, ceremonies and the activities, the gatherings, the camps, etc. And so preparing that in springtime is very, very important. So, but a part of our identity, going back to that, is that we have to understand who we are and how we came to be here. And my grandmother used to say, "We don't skimp," so which means go and know yourself, go discover who you are. Who are you? And you know that made me think about myself in terms of, well, who am I and what am I doing here? And so I would then go to the elders and present protocol and say, can I talk to you about some of the stuff that's on my mind? And we would enter a conversation, and it would be very, very inspiring. And so I encourage young people to do that as well, to seek out your spiritual identity. We're even given names through ceremony. For instance, my name is Kaapskat Pisamya Piawas in Cree, which means White Rainbow Child. And so there's a long story behind that and how I got that name and what was revealed to me through that ceremony. So I wanted to also share one thing about the springtime and what we call the awakening of the medicines. And, you know, some of them, many of the medicines are coming out of a hibernation or deep sleep, we call that. And they are preparing now to grow through the summer. And some of these medicines, we can only pick them at a certain time during the year. And there's a window of opportunity there to get them. There's other medicines that can be picked year round, but the springtime, in preparation for those medicines, we have to do ceremony. We have to sit down and we have to ask for permission and make that connection with those medicines. And in particular, people that are living on the land know the sites that are where the medicine is growing already. So typically, one could go to that site and prepare ceremony and do that ceremony, and then from there proceed to get the medicine. Some of them will be only there certain amount of time, and the flowers come, and then the medicine comes. And so it's a gradual process of connecting with those medicines. You speak directly to the medicine and the spirit of that medicine to help come heal whoever needs that help. And so, just taking those steps is equally important as taking the medicine and then taking it home and preparing it for whoever is coming. These are very highly, highly respected process and protocol. It's important that we do that because, for example, if it's not done properly or adhered to, then the medicine could still be picked, but the spirit of it will leave. And so the medicine will not work as profoundly as it would have had we do the proper procedure. I want to share with you a few stories. Growing up, I've always really loved springtime. I waited for spring in terms of our mushroom and a few of the uncles who used to go out picking duck eggs in this time of year, and we kind of waited. They knew when the eggs were there, and so there was preparation. We used to use a team of horses, and we'd go out to the lake and spend a whole day out there just walking around picking the eggs. And the elders, the old people, always said, you have to leave a couple of eggs. You can't take them all. You got to leave one or two. And we were very careful on how we selected them, and we always had a pail, and we brought it all together, and we would put all the eggs in a pail, and they would boil it, take it home and boil it. The other animals that are being born, like the moose, the little moose, the female moose, they weren't allowed to hunt to kill them. Very mindful of which animal they take down, and so that next crop of moose would come along. We wouldn't deliberately take a female. That was how they observed the importance of respecting the wildlife and sustainability again. So very important to do that. Well, I want to thank you all very much for listening and allowing me to share a little bit of my teaching and my understanding about this, COVID we're in, and also, but more equally important, the relationships that we are connecting with. Stay na nas como ano ta do tim ego e maya iseta kano soma ego aya asamira aya kapum big squano maya next week kisum gaskitan sama kaya chumonano. I wanted to say that stories that are coming, I'm very happy to share, and I look forward to sharing with you more next week. Thank you.